Welcome back. This session, we're going to take a look at book marketing and the impact of AI on book marketing. The session after this will be on production. When we were scheduling the program, production more logically would have been ahead of marketing, but for some reason, we ended up scheduling it right after marketing. So little switch there. And I wanted to respond to some of the questions that we've been getting, some of the comments that have been coming in as we've been going through the conference, and just try and reposition things a little bit. We do have a session coming up later today where we are going to review in some detail the copyright issues, the concerns that authors have, the legal issues that are arising, the different lawsuits. So we will definitely be looking at that. I recognize, and we all recognize, that there are far broader concerns, very relevant, very important concerns. This conference is not about those. And we chose not to make it a conference on the concerns because we felt, that's getting quite a bit of coverage elsewhere. And so there's not as much need to educate around that. The question became, do we make the discussion sort of move back and forth between we're doing this, but it's not good, this is not good over here. We decided to go with giving people an opportunity to see what's being done. All of us are aware of what the concerns are, but we're all trying to see how we can use these tools in productive ways. We're trying to explore the future and where this might take us. So this is the optimist view, and this is the let's get some stuff done view. But keep in mind, we're not ignoring the concerns, and there will be much more coverage on that as we move forward. So going back to where we are today and talking about AI and book marketing, it's been described as the low-hanging fruit for ChatGPT and some of the generative AI technologies, and perhaps it is. That's what we'll explore on this panel. What I'd like to do is introduce our speakers. If you could bring them up there, Rob. We've got the good fortune of having three speakers, all of whom work with book marketing intimately, but from slightly different perspectives: an author, a publisher, and a professional marketer. And I want to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves. We're going to talk a lot about so specific use cases. I'm going to ask you about the tools that you're using. Let's start off just with an introduction and talk about that moment when you knew your job was changing because some new technologies were coming in. Let's go to Emily.
Hello, I'm EJ Winstrom, also Emily. I will respond to either. I'm a science fiction and fantasy author. I've actually got a young adult dystopian novel coming out in October, so we are in the countdown, and I'm using some of these tools to help with that a little bit. But yes, I've got 5 novels out now, and so I'm in that point where book marketing and promoting myself and building that platform is as much of the job as the writing is. And alongside that, I also have a day job where I work in public relations and communications. And so this is something I do professionally for others as well. And I've been doing that for about 15 years. I've written a little bit about AI in the book marketing space for Jane Friedman's The Hot Sheet newsletter, which is an excellent resource if you're not already on that. And boy, the moment that I knew AI was going to start changing everything for our work is a bit of a hard question, but I really think that as it was for, I'm sure, many of us, it was when ChatGPT started having full conversations with us, and we started to see exactly what that, AI voice and kind of conglomerated insight could start to look like.
That's great, Emily. Keith, when you and I first spoke, you talked about programming with Python in a particular task that you took on, and I was startled because not many publishers program in Python. But talk about what you do. Talk about the press and how AI came into your work.
Yeah, so I'm Keith Riegert. I'm the CEO of Ulysses Press. We are an indie with Simon & Schuster, and I also run Perfect Bound. And yeah, the Python experience may have been the moment that really impacted me the most. I had spent years learning how to code in Python, and I was scraping a retailer and went on to ChatGPT and asked it to write code that could scrape a retailer and return a data frame or a CSV file with all of the books that they were currently selling. And GPT wrote better code faster than I could even type it than I had ever written in my life. And I realized that I had wasted 2 years of my life learning that code and that was over. I have definitely had a lot of sleepless nights because of AI and all of these tools that are coming out. And, you know, ChatGPT, Dolly, Midjourney, these are all really amazing programs. And I think it's really important to realize that this is the least intelligent AI we are going to use for the rest of our lives. And that is terrifying and a huge opportunity for us in publishing.
That's a really important point. We'll come back to that. You'll also hear about that idea in the keynote that's coming up later today. Fawzia, you've been working in book marketing for a long time and should talk about when AI showed up on your doorstep.
Yeah, so I'd love to do that. Thank you, first of all. Hello, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here with all of these innovative people. I feel re-energized. I hope you do too. My name is Fawzia Burke, and I have been on the front lines of technology and book publishing for a long time. I started my company in '95 called FSB Associates. I'm the founder and president of my company, and we really pioneered digital publicity and marketing for books because in '95, that was a brand new thing. But I've always been a huge fan of technology and books and marketing and authors, and my journey has enabled me to work alongside almost all types of publishers and remarkable authors like Sonia Renee Taylor, Alan Alda, Deepak Chopra, Ariana Huffington. I feel very blessed to have had that opportunity. I strongly believe in the potential of AI. I'm one of the people Thad was talking about, the optimist. I recognize all of the issues, just like he said, but I'm really excited about it. And I think that that's going to be really exciting as we move into publicity and marketing and discoverability of books. I'm also a very practical person, so I plan to tell you guys some very tangible use cases that you can literally try today, some tools and things like that. So I'm happy to be here. And then my moment, I think it was December when ChatGPT was announced, and I was one of the early adopters, as I've always been for technology. And I got on and just started having conversations and asked, to write a pitch that I was working on for a book and asked it to write it for 3 different audiences. And it came back like this. And I just thought, oh my God, it was really exciting and really fun. And I'm just, I'm excited to explore all of the potential, recognizing the guardrails need to be there, but still the potential is very exciting.
That's great, Fawzia.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do now in this session is give people some real kind of hands-on examples of what's been going, of what you're using, of the tools. And we're getting questions about specific technologies because it's not all ChatGPT. So why don't we make it where we sort of look at a use case and then also go into the toolbox. But with Emily, you've had a chance to do an overview. The article that you wrote for Jane was really good because it gave us the whole landscape. Can you talk about some of what you discovered there?
Sure. And we really looked at a few of the top most popular tools right now. And so we focused on Jasper AI and Writer AI as 2 that are really kind of coming to the top and getting some engagement right now. And these are both very specifically focused on promotion and marketing uses. So the tools are actually very similar in a lot of ways in terms of what they offer. Kind of a quick, broad picture overview. These tools are doing things like they can provide you with a set of ideas for a blog post. They can take a description of a novel and they can turn it into a designated marketing formula sales proposition. And there's a few different ones that they will use. If you're a real marketing geek, you can go and see exactly what those different formulas are. But I don't think we need to get that in the weeds right here. The point is that it can take information about a book and turn it into Amazon ad copy. It can turn it into a Facebook post pitch. It can turn it into a blurb to describe what the book is about and make it enticing to readers. So there's a lot of different things that these tools are doing, and they are applying different formulas, different frameworks, different communication patterns to make that all possible. Jasper AI, I had especially a lot of fun with as I was testing it out and getting a feel, because it had something called boss mode, where you could kind of go in blank slate to this, kind of word processing sort of interface and say, give me 10 ideas to promote a book. And it would start breaking down a plan for you. And you can do some similar things with ChatGPT as well. But there's a lot of ways to kind of prompt it in different directions and get something useful out of it. You could take the blog post ideas that it generates for you and then tell it to give you an outline for one of them and kind of jumpstart your drafting process, or even have it turn an outline that either it or you creates, and then have it prompt a first draft of a blog post. So if you are an author and you are busy and you have your day job and you're trying to get your writing done and you're trying to promote your own books like I do, there's a lot in some of these tools that could really save you time or even just brain energy to get some of these first steps for these processes underway. Or, for some of these things that are maybe outside of an author's wheelhouse, such as creating compelling ad copy, it really get you started in that right direction. I do think it's worth noting a few things that were, maybe not quite there yet with some of these tools, or where, initially it's easy to come to something like AI and think, oh, all of your problems are solved. We have the computer to do it now. And there's really no way to get around having some involvement in all of this. You really need to go in with a mindset that you're going to be a hands-on collaborator, at least, with this AI tool. It's not going to do everything. I think that, one, you really want to make sure that you're fact checking everything, and also putting any content it's developing for you through that kind of diversity lens and other considerations like that, because sometimes what it's drawing for you from the internet is going to be as weighted as the information of the internet in all of those different ways, including misinformation, including biases, unfortunately. So you really need to do that thinking for yourself still. You also really want to make sure that you're being hands-on in terms of how you are applying voice to what it generates for you. Never, ever just take what an AI tool like Jasper or Writer or ChatGPT is creating and use it just as it is. And the reason I really feel very passionately about that is because these tools, like I said, they're drawing from formulas, they're drawing from communications patterns. And what is going to end up happening as content generation on the surface like this becomes increasingly easier is that everyone's going to be using them at some point, and it's just going to get into an echo chamber, and it's going to exacerbate that sense of content fatigue that so many of us already feel. And if what you are putting out there as an author continues to just kind of have that very neutral, generic tone to it, you are turning your wheels and doing the work, but you're not going to get the benefits from that work, because what readers respond to in an author and what really makes them follow along and get excited about an author is that unique voice, that unique perspective that you're bringing. So you really need to put your own fingerprints on anything that you're putting out from your social media, your newsletter, anything else that you're putting out to promote your books, because that's what's going to make you stand out. So these tools can really help you get a jump start, avoid that blank page challenge that so many of us feel, and kind of strengthen your tactics when it comes to some of these sales methods. But never, ever eliminate your voice from all of that. And I've been talking for quite a while, so I will wrap up.
That was great, Emily. One of the things that I really enjoyed about what you're sharing is we do have a lot of authors in the audience. And so you gave some very practical advice for authors. And I also was thinking, as you're saying that the tools you're describing are also for publishers. They're tools that an author, I mean, the great thing about all these tools is they're not complex to use. They're very straightforward. Keith, tell us about some of what you're doing and what the tools you're using to accomplish what you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm also going to post a link in the chat to some of the things that we've been trying out. But I want to start by saying, I think that these tools are going to change so quickly. 3 months from now, they're going to be completely different. ChatGPT is already being rolled out with DALL-E 3 embedded in it. That is going to be revolutionary. The next series of AI, the next iteration is going to be trained on images and video as well as text. So we're talking about leaps and bounds that are going to be happening in the next 3 months to a year. But what we're doing right now at Ulysses is I'm encouraging all of our team to spend at least an hour a day using these tools in some fashion. And the way that we are approaching it is just try whatever you're doing in ChatGPT first, or DALL-E, or Midjourney, or Claude, and then see what the limitations are and what the benefits are of using those tools. So we have tried ChatGPT for creating a marketing plan for a new release. We have used it to write contract addendums. We have had it write press releases and brainstorm book ideas, brainstorm newsletter subject lines. We use Adobe Photoshop Beta to do generative fill on cover images that aren't the right aspect ratio. And the reason that I would trust Photoshop for that over something like Midjourney or DALL-E is that all of the images that Photoshop is training its generative fill on are licensed photographs. So there are a lot of limitations. There's a lot of things to be concerned about and to be wary about. There are also a lot of regulations coming from the EU and pretty soon an executive order from the Biden administration. So playing with these and seeing what you can do with them, but being very careful about what you are putting out into the world, I think is very critical.
That's great, Keith. Let's go to you, Fawzia. Tell us about some of your triumphs and challenges.
Triumphs, yeah. Well, first of all, I agree with both of them. We really have so many ways that we can use it. And the simple low-hanging fruit that we've all talked about is just getting ideas for copy, titles, subtitles. All of those things are really cool. And I've done a couple of other things where I've taken an author bio and just had it diced up in so many different lengths that I need. So whether it's for social media, whether it's for a media kit, or whether it's for a sort of a bio for a podcast or something like that. So those kinds of things, generating customized press releases is really great. So we don't have to live with the generic, like this is supposed to apply to everyone. Books generally have multiple audiences. So if you can customize your press material for that audience, that would be great. One of the things that is down the horizon for me is that I'm sitting on an amazing, all of us have amazing data. I've got this amazing data set where I've kept track of online media for the 20 years that I've had my company. And we've kept track of what they cover, what they like, what they don't like. And usually now we have to do that, kind of manually track that down and figure out what books we're pitching them. But I'm working on a program where we can take that data and then send very customized pitches to people, so they don't feel like it's a generic pitch, which most online media hate. So that's another thing that we're working on. I just have to be very mindful that this increase of spam has gotten so bad. Already we're seeing it, right? I'm seeing it on LinkedIn. I'm seeing it in my email, that we have to be careful about that. And those relationships still matter a lot. So I want to make sure that people are not thinking they can just have press releases going out and they work. They don't really. Book group guides, rewriting. So one of the things that I did recently that I thought was really cool with ChatGPT is that we write copy for our books, right? And we put them out and we hope that it's going to resonate. Obviously, we've got good copywriters in marketing and in book publicity. But what I did was once the book started getting reviews, so there was about, let's say, 6 or 7 different reviews for this book, I took those reviews and asked ChatGPT to actually write a new description for the book based on what is resonating with people, right? Because when we're writing copy before the book comes out, we're sort of expecting or hoping what's going to resonate. But then once we start actually seeing the reviews, we can see what's actually resonating with people. So that was, I think, really cool way of seeing how it changes based on actual direct reader feedback or, review feedback. So that was a really good thing. I've certainly used it in, if I have a couple of authors and they're going to be in conversation with each other, I ask ChatGPT to recommend questions based on their personal history and their books, the kinds of books they write. That's been really cool. And I use a lot of different programs. So I obviously use ChatGPT, but I also use Claude. I also use Perplexity, which I think is really fantastic and not very well used, but really great for doing research, because what happens is Perplexity will actually give you the links where the book is, where it's getting that information. So it's not just made up. You have a little bit more of like data set that you can count on, which is great. And then a few other programs I want to list for people. Grammarly has had quite the glow up. And if you're not using it, you really should. There's I pay for the version. It has basically incorporated AI. It was always an AI program. It's incorporated it even more and actually does an amazing job of writing, rewriting. Sometimes if you're getting something from ChatGPT or Claude, it will rewrite it in a way that is, better, more efficient and all of that. So that's another program not to sort of, ignore, because I think it has really come a long way in the last 6 months. Also, Canva has always been a phenomenal program, but with the AI glow up, it's doing remarkable things as well. So if you already used to Canva, you already like it, just push that harder and use more of it. There are also other programs that I use, and I'm happy to answer those questions if people need them. So those are some of the things that I'm using. I'll just give a very tactical example. I had one author, and we got an email interview opportunity for him, but it was very time sensitive. It was a very short window that they needed the replies. He was at a conference. He said, Fawzi, I really just can't do it. So what I did was, he had already done 2 or 3 different podcast interviews, and I took the transcript from those podcast interviews. So it was his words, fed that to ChatGPT, fed it the introduction of the book, so they had a sense of who he was and what he was trying to accomplish with his book, his bio, and then asked ChatGPT to answer those questions that we got as an email question. And it was pretty phenomenal. So I got it back. I reread it. I made some corrections. I sent it over to him. He was able to answer and basically review it within 10 minutes, get it back to me, and we were able to take advantage of that opportunity. And otherwise, it would have just gone by the wayside. So that's really, and the thing with using the PDF the transcript of the podcast was it was his words. So, it wasn't in my request from ChatGPT was to use his exact words as much as possible. So it became literally just it was so easy for ChatGPT to do that, and it would have taken us hours. So some of those very practical ways are really helpful and make things so much easier in terms of taking advantage of opportunities and just being able to do them faster. So that, I think those are the things. And there's some, one other program I will just mention, actually 2 others. I'm a big nerd. So I'm just going to say 2 things. So there's a program called Studio Shot, where you can actually upload some of your selfies and it'll give you a professional photo. And I don't know about you, but not all author photos seem perfect. So this is a really good thing that authors can use and publishers can use to get more author shots without having to, I think it's $60 or something, without having to go to a studio and a professional photographer. And then Otter AI is a program that will literally stay on your Zoom chats, take the transcript, and then summarize it for you. So you can actually send notes to people. And I use it where I interview my clients before we start a campaign and just kind of talk about the book, talk about their work, all of that, and then take that and then use that in my press material and just talking about the book. And it's just so much more specific and so much more customized and human. I know it's kind of funny to say that, but I feel like AI is actually making the communication more human as long as there's a collaboration. So as Emily said, you have to be on it, and you have to have your fingerprints on it for sure, but certainly use it in so many different ways. So I'm super excited about that.
Quite a tool set. That's wonderful, Fawzia. The last one you mentioned was Otter, right? OTTER.ai.
Yes.
Yeah, I've worked with that. Another tool, a couple of you have mentioned Claude from Anthropic with Claude.ai. I've used that to do whole manuscript analysis, where I'll feed in a whole manuscript and query the manuscript. Is that a tool that you would use, or is there another tool where you can feed in the entire manuscript?
I use Claude for that, for sure. I mean, I'm still, it is supposed to be private, so I'm always a little hesitant to put in a whole manuscript. So I will do a chapter or the introduction or something, just so I'm not giving in entire content.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, great. Good. So now let's step back. We've had lots of in the weeds. Let's think about what AI is doing to the book marketing function more broadly. And is AI going to change marketing's role within the publishing organization? Does it change the balance of power within publishing? Keith, how do you see the transition?
I really think we have to touch upon one big earthquake that I think is coming our way, and that is search generative experience. So if you go onto Bing right now and you search for the top 5 summer reads of 2023, the classic search engine is going to give you a long list of results. But if you go and use their chat function, it's going to give you 5 results. And we already know that Google is actively testing their SGE right now. The early snapshots look like it's going to reduce organic search on websites by anywhere between 25 and 50%. And that is going to be a huge change to the way that we market books and we foster discoverability. And the thing that I'm really nervous about is that Amazon is currently working on their own GSE system. So you have to think about how books are going to be found in the future and what we are going to have to do as marketers to replace our standard SEO tools to adapt for that new environment.
Fawzia, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think that's a huge concern. You know, I asked ChatGPT, I just finished reading one book and I asked it to recommend a similar book. And it did, and I just used it without checking, doing any other work on it. And it was a remarkable recommendation. It was an excellent choice, great book. So I think that's a really good point. My suggestion to people in book publishing or even authors is not to leave AI in the hands of IT people, as if it has nothing to do with all of us. This is something that publishers have done in the past with internet, with social media. It was someone else's issue. It wasn't yours. And it took a while for it to integrate. And I think that in this time, we don't really have a lot of time. We have to get it integrated. So that's one thing. I love that Keith has his staff all experimenting and trying different things. I think we have to have that attitude. The other thing is you have to think about what data you're sitting on and how you can use that data in a more creative and interesting ways, because we're all sitting on really good data. We just haven't used it in the best possible way. So I think those things are really important. And then I think that there was a study done by Boston Consulting Group that basically came back with when they had staff use AI tools, and I think mostly ChatGPT, that for 18 different tasks, people who were using AI outperformed the people who were not using AI. Again, no big deal, no big surprise there. Of course they did. But not only was it faster, it was actually, they said, the quality was 40% higher. So
I think on that one, Fawzia, because that actually comes up later in our program. The person who conducted that test wonderfully is Ethan Mollick, our last keynote speaker. And we've sent out to people links to his blog. And the last 2 or 3 entries of his blog have talked about that, linked to the original paper. So people can go deep on that one. It's a really, really interesting study.
It's amazing, but it does. The reason I brought it up is because it talks about what Emily said earlier, that collaboration between AI and human. Yes. That's what I think is most exciting and more interesting. And it's only going to happen if we are experimenting and are curious rather than, oh my God, I'm not going to deal with this. So that's the thing. The collaboration is where the magic is, I think.
That's wonderful. And that's a great concluding note. I want to thank all of you for being here. That's a wonderful panel. Thank you for taking the time in rehearsals and today. Very much appreciated. Great to see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
See you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.